Amara Washington's vision was going dark. Minasio's perfectly manicured nails dug into her throat, cutting off her air. 7 months pregnant, gasping, dying on her own leather couch in a Seoul penthouse, 7,000 miles from home. The baby kicked frantically inside her, violent, desperate movements that screamed, "Mama, help us." Amara's brown fingers clawed at Minasio's wrists, drawing blood, but her strength was fading fast. "You took everything from me?" Minacio hissed through tears and rage, mascara streaming down her face. "If I can't have him, you die. That baby dies." Amara's world narrowed to a pinpoint. Her lungs screamed for air. Her baby's kicks grew weaker, slower. This was it. She was going to die in Korea, strangled by her husband's ex-girlfriend, and her daughter would die with her. Then she heard it, the apartment door opening, heavy footsteps in the hallway, and a voice, cold as death itself. "Minacio, to understand how we got here, how a successful black woman from Atlanta ended up fighting for her life in a Korean penthouse, we have to go back exactly 24 hours. Back to the moment Amara found the receipt that unraveled everything. Back to the Tuesday night dinners her husband lied about. Back to the ex-girlfriend who refused to stay in the past. And back to the Korean Mafia boss who thought he could love 2 women without consequences. This is the story of betrayal, obsession, and a woman who survived the unthinkable. Before we dive in, I need your help with something. My mama told me nobody wants to hear about real love gone wrong, that these stories are too heavy, too real. But I believe different. I believe stories like Amara's deserve to be heard, because somebody out there is living this right now. If this story moves you, if it makes you feel something, drop a like and subscribe. Let's prove that truth matters more than comfort. Now let's go back to where it all started. 24 hours earlier, Amara's hands were shaking as she stared at a piece of paper that would change her life forever. A receipt. Dinner for 2. 187,001. About $150. Last Tuesday night. The same Tuesday night her husband, Kang Tae-hyun, said he was working late at the office. She stood in their penthouse kitchen, one hand pressed against her 7-month pregnant belly, the other gripping that receipt like it was evidence in a murder trial. And in a way, it was the murder of trust, the murder of her fairy tale. Amara Washington had given up everything for this man. Her vice president position at a marketing firm in Atlanta, her salary, her close-knit family, her mama, her 3 sisters, Sunday dinners, family cookouts, the sound of black joy filling up a room. She'd given up sweet tea and soul food and people who looked like her and understood her without explanation. She'd moved to Seoul 2 years ago because Tae-hyun promised her the world. "I'll take care of you," he'd said, holding her face in his hands in that hotel room in Atlanta. "You'll never want for anything. Just say yes. Come with me. Build a life with me." And God help her, she'd said yes. But standing there in that kitchen, pregnant and alone, staring at proof of his lie, Amara felt like the biggest fool in the world. Her southern grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. "Baby, when a man shows you who he is, believe him the first time." She picked up her phone, dialed the restaurant, struggled through her limited Korean. She'd been trying to learn, but 2 years wasn't enough to master a language, especially when you're isolated and pregnant and your husband's family barely speaks to you. "Yobasio," a woman answered. Hi. English?" Amara asked. "Yes, little bit. I'm calling about a reservation. Last Tuesday." "Kang Tae-hyun." There was a pause, keys clicking on a computer. "Ah, yes, Mr. Kang. Very handsome man. He come with beautiful Korean woman. Burgundy dress. Very elegant." Amara's heart stopped. Burgundy. She didn't own anything burgundy. Her closet was full of jewel tones, emerald greens, sapphire blues, rich purples that complemented her deep brown skin. Taehyun knew this. He'd bought her clothes himself, always knowing exactly what would make her glow. So who was the woman in burgundy? Thank you, Amara whispered, and hung up. She pressed her hand harder against her belly. The baby kicked, as if responding to her mama's distress. Baby girl, Amara whispered, her southern accent thickening with emotion. What has mama gotten us into? For a moment, she just stood there, breathing, thinking, her mind racing through possibilities, excuses, anything that could explain this away. Maybe it was a business dinner. Maybe the woman was a client. No, Amara Washington didn't get to where she was in life by lying to herself. She'd fought through corporate America as a black woman. She'd broken glass ceilings. She knew how to read a room, read people, read situations. And this situation was screaming danger. She did what every woman does when her gut screams and her heart breaks. She went through everything. His phone, password protected, but she knew it. Their wedding date, his laptop, same password, his emails, his texts, his call logs. And that's when she found it. The deleted messages folder. Taehyun was smart, careful, methodical, traits that made him successful in his business, which Amara had always suspected was more than just import-export. But even smart men make mistakes when they're living double lives. He deleted the messages from his main inbox, but he hadn't emptied the deleted folder. Minesio, that was the name that appeared over and over. Hundreds of messages spanning months. I miss you. She doesn't understand me like you do. Tuesday at 8? Seeing you is the only time I feel like myself. Amara's hands trembled as she scrolled. Each message was a knife to her heart. Each I love you too from this Minesio woman was a betrayal that cut deeper than the last. But it was the most recent message, from 3 days ago, that broke her completely. I don't know how much longer I can do this, Minesio. She's having my baby. But God, I wish it was yours. Amara made a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. Her hand flew to her mouth. The baby kicked hard, like she was trying to comfort her mama from the inside. She ran to the bathroom and threw up. Morning sickness had passed months ago, but heartbreak has its own physical symptoms. When she finally stopped heaving, she looked at herself in the mirror. A 32-year-old black woman. Beautiful, even she could admit that. Skin like polished mahogany, natural hair pulled back in a bun, eyes that used to be confident but now just looked tired, pregnant, betrayed, alone in a country where she didn't quite fit, would never quite fit. And the worst part? She'd seen this coming. The late nights, the distance, the way Taehyun looked at her sometimes with affection, yes, but also with something else, something like regret. She'd told herself she was imagining it, that pregnancy hormones were making her paranoid, that the cultural and language barriers were making her feel more isolated than she actually was. But she wasn't paranoid. She was right. Amara splashed water on her face, straightened her spine, and made a decision. She was going to see this with her own eyes. Amara knew Taehyun's schedule better than he thought she did. Tuesday meetings at the office building in Gangnam. Always until 8, he said. Then late-night business dinners that kept him out until 10 or 11. It was Tuesday. She called a taxi. Her Korean was good enough for that, at least. Put on a black coat that barely buttoned over her pregnant belly. Pulled her hair back. Felt like a spy, a detective, a woman on the edge. The taxi driver looked at her in the rearview mirror. Gangnam, he confirmed. Yes, this address. She showed him the screen. He nodded and pulled into Seoul traffic. Amara stared out the window as the city blurred past. Seoul was beautiful neon lights, modern architecture, ancient palaces tucked between skyscrapers. But it had never felt like home. How could it? She was the only black woman in most rooms. People stared. Children pointed. Adults were polite but distant, like she was a curiosity rather than a person. Taehyun had promised it would get easier. Give it time, he'd said. My family will come around. You'll make friends. You'll love it here. But his family barely tolerated her. His mother smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. His father spoke to Taehyun as if Amara wasn't in the room. And friends? The expat community was small, and most Korean women her age weren't interested in befriending the black American who'd married into wealth and power. She was lonely, and now she was heartbroken. The taxi pulled up to the office building. Amara paid, got out, felt the cold October air hit her face. She pulled her coat tighter and headed for the parking garage. She didn't have a plan, just a need to know, to see, to confirm what her heart already knew. The parking garage was dim, concrete, echoing. She found a spot behind a pillar, hidden but with a clear view of the executive parking spaces. And she waited. 20 minutes later, she heard voices. Korean, a man and a woman, speaking in that intimate way that lovers do, soft, familiar, comfortable. Amara's heart started pounding. She peeked around the pillar, and there they were. Taehyun, her husband, tall, handsome, dressed in that perfectly tailored black suit she'd helped him pick out. His hair styled the way she loved, pushed back from his forehead. And next to him, a woman, Korean, stunning, sophisticated, late 20s, maybe early 30s, long dark hair falling in waves. And yes, a burgundy dress under a black coat. Minacio. Amara watched as they walked slowly toward his car. They weren't holding hands, weren't kissing, but the body language told the whole story. Minacio said something in Korean. Taehyun laughed. A real laugh, the kind he used to give Amara but hadn't in months. Then Minacio touched his arm, just lightly, but with a possessiveness that screamed history, intimacy, ownership. Taehyun didn't pull away. They stood by his car for another 5 minutes, talking, too close, his face softer than Amara had seen it in weeks. Then Minacio reached up, almost touching his face, before stopping herself. She said something that made Taehyun's expression change. Sadness, maybe, or regret. He responded, his voice too low for Amara to hear. Minacio nodded, got into her own car, a sleek silver sedan, and drove away. Taehyun stood there for a moment, watching her leave. Then he got into his car and left too. And Amara stood behind that pillar, 7 months pregnant, hand on her belly, watching her marriage die in real time. The baby kicked, hard, like she knew. Amara slid down the wall until she was sitting on the cold concrete floor, hand over her mouth to silence her sobs. Because in that moment, in that dark parking garage in Seoul, she understood a truth that shattered her. She was utterly, completely alone. She'd given up her career, her family, her country, her culture, her language, her community, everything, for a man who was in love with someone else. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. FaceTime. Her mother answered on the second ring. Baby girl, I wasn't expecting. Amara? Baby, what's wrong? The sound of her mother's voice, that warm, southern, black mama voice that had soothed every hurt since childhood, broke something open in Amara's chest. Mama, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I need you to book me a flight. I'm coming home. What happened? Is it the baby? Are you okay? The baby's fine. I'm fine. Physically. But Mama, you were right. I should have never come here. I should have never. Amara Washington, you breathe. Right now. You breathe and tell me what that man did. So she did. Sitting on that parking garage floor, Amara told her mother everything. The receipt. The messages. The woman in burgundy. The way Taehyun looked at Minaseo like she was home and Amara was just a guest. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Baby, I'm booking you a flight right now. Tomorrow morning. You pack your things, you get yourself and my grandbaby on that plane, and you come home. You hear me? Mama, I don't even know if I can leave. His name is on everything. The apartment, the accounts, everything. Then you leave everything. You take your passport, you take whatever cash you got, and you come home. We'll figure out the rest. But you don't stay in a house with a man who doesn't love you right. Amara nodded, even though her mother couldn't see her. Okay. Tomorrow morning. I love you, baby girl. I love you too, Mama. She hung up and just sat there for another few minutes, crying in the dark. What Amara didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that at that exact moment, 8 floors above her in a hotel bar, Taehyun was ending things with Minaseo, and that in 16 hours, Minaseo would be standing at her door, and that by this time tomorrow, she'd be fighting for her life. Taehyun came home just after midnight. The apartment was dark. For a moment, he thought Amara was asleep. Then he saw her, sitting in the living room in the dark, and his stomach dropped, because next to her were 2 suitcases. Amara, I saw you today. Her voice was flat, emotionless. The voice of a woman who'd cried herself empty. With her, in the parking garage. Don't lie to me, Taehyun. Please don't lie to me. He stood frozen in the doorway, still holding his briefcase. For a man who'd built an empire on intimidation and control, he looked lost. How long have you been seeing her? He set down his briefcase slowly. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. 'Cause from where I'm standing, it looks like my husband has been having an affair with his ex-girlfriend for God knows how long, lying about Tuesday night meetings, and telling her he wishes she was having his baby instead of me. His face went pale. You read my messages. Damn right I read your messages. You don't get to have privacy when you're betraying your wife. She stood up, the emotion breaking through. I gave up everything for you. Everything. And you've been sneaking around with Minaseo. I ended it tonight, he said quietly. For good. I told her it was over. Oh, you ended it tonight? Tonight? How generous of you. She laughed bitterly. How long? Taehyun? How long have you been seeing her? He ran a hand through his hair. We started talking again about 6 months after you moved here. Just talking. She reached out, said she wanted closure. And then what? You realized you missed her? You realized you made a mistake marrying me? Amara, answer the question. She understands my world. The words exploded out of him. She knows the business, the culture, the expectations. She knows who I really am. You. He stopped, but the damage was done. Amara felt like she'd been slapped. I what? I'm too American? Too black? Too different? Say it, Taehyun. Say what you've been thinking this whole time. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? She moved closer, one hand on her pregnant belly. You brought me to a country where I don't speak the language, where your family looks at me like I'm a mistake, where I'm the only black woman in every room, getting stared at like I'm an exotic pet. And I stayed. I tried. I learned. I adapted. I gave up everything I knew because I loved you, because I believed you when you said we'd build a life together. Her voice cracked. But you didn't want to build a life with me, did you? You wanted someone who fit your world. Someone Korean. Someone your family would approve of. Someone like Minacio. I love you, Amara. But you wish you didn't. You wish you'd stayed with her. You wish this baby. Her voice broke completely. You wish this baby was hers. He didn't deny it. And that silence, that terrible, honest silence, destroyed whatever was left of Amara's heart. I'm leaving, she said quietly. Tomorrow morning. I'm going back to Atlanta. You can have your lawyers contact me about custody arrangements. You can't just leave. Watch me. Amara, please. Let me explain. What's there to explain? You don't love me enough. You're ashamed of me. Your family doesn't accept me. I don't fit your world. I get it. I finally get it. She moved toward the bedroom. You can sleep on the couch. I'll be gone by morning. Where will you go? How will you support yourself and the baby? She turned back, fury in her eyes. Don't you dare. Don't you dare pretend like you care about providing for us when you've been wishing we didn't exist. I never said that. You didn't have to. I read the messages. Taehyun. I wish it was yours. You think I can unknow that? You think I can stay here, raise a child with a man who regrets her existence? I don't regret. Yes, you do. Maybe not all the time. Maybe you love her when she kicks. Maybe you're excited about being a father. But part of you, a big part of you, wishes this whole thing never happened so you could be with Minacio. And I will not raise my daughter in a house where she's seen as an obligation. She grabbed her purse. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Don't follow me. Don't call me. I'll come get my things in the morning when you're at work. Amara, wait. But she was already out the door. What neither of them knew was that at that exact moment, Minacio was sitting at home, drinking soju straight from the bottle, reading Taehyun's final message. I'm sorry, Minacio, but this ends now. Amara is my wife. She's having my baby. I have to make this right. Goodbye. And with each sip of soju, Minacio's heartbreak turned to rage. By the third bottle, she'd made her decision. If Taehyun wouldn't choose her willingly, she'd remove the obstacle. 8 hours earlier, Taehyun had met Minacio at the hotel bar where they'd first met 5 years ago. She'd looked beautiful as always, elegant, put together, everything his parents had wanted for him. A Korean woman from a good family who understood his world. Thank you for meeting me, she said softly when he sat down. This is the last time, Minacio. I know. I got your message. I needed to see you. One last time. He ordered whiskey. She already had soju. Do you remember our first date? She asked, looking around the bar. You were so nervous. I'd never seen the great Kang Taehyun nervous before. Despite everything, he smiled. You made me nervous. You were the first woman who looked at me and saw a man, not a title, not money, just me. I fell in love with you that night, Minacio said. Did you know that? Before the food even came, I knew. Minacio, let me say this, please. Her eyes were shining with tears. I gave you 5 years. 5 years of understanding your business, your world, your darkness. I never judged, never asked you to be different. I loved all of you. And then she showed up. She said she like a curse word. Amara, Taehyun said firmly. Her name is Amara. Your American experiment. She's my wife. Minacio laughed bitterly. Your wife, the woman who doesn't speak Korean, who your mother calls unfortunate when she thinks you can't hear, who will never understand what it means to be part of your world. That's your wife. She's having my baby. A complication. A beautiful, exotic complication that's keeping you trapped. Taehyun's voice went cold. Don't talk about my child like that. Your child. Min Seo took another drink. You know what your father said at the charity gala? He told me he's disappointed. That he raised you to think about legacy, about family, about what your children would inherit. And now you're bringing biracial children into the Kong family. His words, not mine. He knew his father felt that way, but hearing it confirmed, hearing that his family had discussed this with Min Seo, made him sick. I don't care what my father thinks. Yes, you do. You care so much it's eating you alive. You're torn between the life you built with me and the fantasy you're living with her. And you know which one is real, Taehyun. Deep down, you know. I know that I made a choice. I married Amara. I'm having a baby with her. And I'm not going to keep doing this with you. Min Seo's face changed. The sadness hardened into something else. You're ending this. Really ending it. Yes. After 2 years of Tuesday dinners. 2 years of telling me you missed me. That she didn't understand you. That you felt like yourself only with me. After 2 years of letting me believe that eventually you'd come back. You're just ending it.
I'm sorry.
You're sorry. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're sorry. Do you know what these 2 years have done to me? Waiting for you, hoping, watching you play house with her while knowing you texted me every night. I gave up dating. I gave up moving on. I gave up my life because you kept giving me hope. I was wrong. I led you on. I should have let you go completely. And I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Taehyun. Sorry doesn't give me back 5 years. Sorry doesn't. Her voice broke. I love you. I love you so much it's killing me. And you're choosing her. Someone who doesn't even belong in your world. Taehyun stood up, put money on the bar.
I'm sorry, Min Seo.
But this is over. Don't contact me again. Move on. Find someone who can love you the way you deserve. But that person isn't me. Not anymore. He walked away without looking back. Min Seo sat at that bar for another hour. Ordered more soju. Then more. By the third bottle, her sadness had transformed into something darker. Rage. Amara had taken everything. Her future. Her family. The man she loved. And now she was going to take Taehyun completely. Trap him with that baby. Force him into a life he didn't even want. Unless there was no baby. Unless there was no Amara. Min Seo pulled out her phone. Looked up Taehyun's address. She'd been there once. Before. When they were together. Left a few things she'd never gotten back. She knew the building. Knew the apartment number. And she knew Taehyun's schedule. Tomorrow was Wednesday. He always went to the office by 8. Didn't come home until late. Amara would be alone. Pregnant. Vulnerable. Alone. Min Seo smiled. She paid her tab and left. The next day at 3 p.m., Min Seo pressed the buzzer to apartment 1502. She dressed carefully. Black slacks. A silk blouse. Professional. Her hair pulled back. Minimal makeup. She looked like someone who belonged in that building, someone official, someone harmless. The intercom crackled. Yes. Amara's voice, tired and thick with emotion. Hi, I'm looking for Kang Taehyun.
I'm Min Seo. I'm
an old friend. Is he home? Silence. Min Seo could almost hear Amara's brain working. He's at work, Amara said finally. Oh, I see. Actually, could I talk to you for a moment? I think we should talk. Woman to woman. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, come up. The door buzzed. Min Seo smiled as she walked through the lobby, into the elevator, up to the 15th floor. Amara opened the door still in her pajamas, a t-shirt that stretched over her pregnant belly, loose pants. Her natural hair was pulled back in a messy bun. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She looked exactly like what she was. A heartbroken woman at the end of her rope. Perfect. I know who you are, Amara said, not moving from the doorway. You're her. The woman in burgundy. Minacio. Yes. Minacio kept her voice soft, gentle. I know you probably don't want to see me, but I think we need to talk. About Taehyun. About what happened. Can I come in? Just for a few minutes. Amara hesitated. This is where she made her mistake. She was Southern, raised on hospitality, raised to be polite even to enemies. She was pregnant, hormonal, emotionally exhausted, and part of her, a big part, wanted answers only Minacio could give. But just for a minute, Minacio stepped inside. The apartment was beautiful, modern, expensive. Everything Minacio and Taehyun had talked about getting someday. Everything that should have been hers. You have a beautiful home, Minacio said. Thanks. Amara didn't sit down. Say what you came to say. Did Taehyun tell you about us? About our history? He said you dated. For 5 years. That y'all broke up. But he's been seeing you again. Having dinners. Texting. Amara's voice was flat. He ended it last night. For good, he said. Yes, he did. Minacio walked slowly into the living room, looking around like she was cataloging everything. Do you want to know why we broke up? The first time. Does it matter? I think it does. I think you should know what you're dealing with. Against her better judgment, Amara sat down on the couch, gestured for Minacio to sit in the chair across from her. But Minacio sat on the couch instead. Close. Too close. Taehyun broke up with me because he wanted to try something different, Minacio said. That's what he told me. He said he loved me, that I was perfect, but that he needed to see what else was out there. He was tired of family pressure, of expectations. He wanted something exciting, different. She looked directly at Amara when she said, different. And then he met you, beautiful American woman, black, confident, so far from his world that it felt like freedom. You were a fantasy, Amara. An escape. I'm not an escape. I'm his wife. Are you? Or are you just a fantasy he's living out before he comes back to reality? Amara's jaw clenched. He married me. After knowing you for how long? A year? Less? Do you know how long Taehyun and I were together? 5 years. 5 years of knowing every part of him. The good, the bad, the darkness he hides from you. I know about his business. Minacio laughed. You think you do. You know the surface, the import-export company, the legitimate face. But do you know where the money really comes from? Do you know what he's done? What he's capable of? He told me he's leaving that life, going legitimate. For you. He said that for you. But men like Taehyun don't change, Amara. They just put on different masks for different people. With you, he's playing at being normal, safe. But with me, he didn't have to pretend. I knew who he was. I accepted all of him. If he wanted you, he'd be with you, Amara said, but her voice wavered. He does want me. That's the problem. Minacio leaned forward. Do you want to know what we've been doing these past 2 years? Every Tuesday we have dinner. And after dinner, we sit in his car and we talk. Sometimes for hours. He tells me things he doesn't tell you. About the business. About his family. About how lonely he feels trying to live a normal life. Amara's hands were shaking. He told me he ended it. He ended the physical part last night. That baby you're carrying? Minasio's voice turned harder. He told me 3 months ago that he wishes it was mine, that a baby with you is a chain around his neck, that he'll never be free. Stop. Why? Because it hurts? Because you finally see the truth? Minasio's mask was slipping. You took him from me. You came into his life, all exotic and different and exciting, and you took my future, my family, my life. I didn't take anything. He made a choice. He made a mistake. Minasio stood up, suddenly agitated. And that baby is the only reason he's staying. Without that baby, he'd come back to me. I know he would. Amara stood too, protective instincts kicking in. Get out. You don't even belong here. You're American, black. You'll never fit into his world, into his family. Your child will never be fully Korean. She'll be caught between two worlds, never truly belonging to either. You did that to her. I said get out. You took everything from me. Minasio's voice rose. 5 years. 5 years I gave him. And you showed up and took it all because you were different. Because you were exotic. Because you were black. There it was. The racism that had been simmering under everything. The real reason for the hatred. Get the hell out of my house. Amara's voice was steel. I don't care what you and Taehyun had. I don't care what he told you. That's between him and me. But you don't come into MY home and attack MY baby. Minasio was breathing hard. Her perfectly composed mask had completely shattered. Tears were streaming down her face. You don't understand. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. To have your whole future ripped away. I'm calling security. That should be MY baby. Minasio's voice broke completely. That should be MY home. My life. You took it all. Amara reached for her phone. And that's when Minasio lunged. Everything happened so fast. 1 second, Amara was reaching for her phone on the side table. The next, Minasio's hands were around her throat, and they were crashing backward onto the leather couch. Amara didn't even have time to scream. Minasio was kneeling over her, 7-month pregnant belly between them, fingers digging into Amara's throat with a strength born of rage and desperation. If I can't have him, you don't get to have him either. Minasio was crying, mascara streaming down her face, but her grip didn't loosen. If I can't have a family, you don't get a family. Amara clawed at Minasio's wrists, scratching, drawing blood, trying to pry those fingers away. But she was pregnant, off balance, and Minasio had the advantage of position and surprise. She couldn't breathe. The world started to darken at the edges. Inside her belly, the baby kicked frantically. Violent, desperate movements that screamed mama. Help us, mama. Please. Amara's survival instinct kicked in. She tried to buck Minasio off. Tried to twist away. But Minasio just pressed harder. Shifted her weight. Squeezed tighter.
I'm sorry, Minasio sobbed.
I'm sorry. But you don't understand. He was everything. Everything. And you took him. You took my whole life. Amara's lungs were screaming. Her vision was narrowing to a tunnel. She could feel herself fading. Her hands fell from Minasio's wrists. Her body went limp. This was it. She was going to die. Her baby was going to die. In her fading consciousness, Amara thought of her mama. Her sisters, her grandmother who'd passed 2 years ago but had warned her, baby, sometimes love ain't enough. Sometimes you gotta choose yourself. She thought of her daughter who would never be born, who would never take her first breath, who would die because her mama made the mistake of falling in love with the wrong man. I'm sorry, baby girl. Mama's so sorry. Her eyes fluttered closed. Then she heard it. A sound that pierced through the darkness. the apartment door opening, heavy footsteps in the hallway, and a voice cold, lethal, final. Minacio. Minacio's hands stopped squeezing. Her whole body froze, because she knew that voice. She knew what it meant. Slowly, she turned her head. Taehyun stood in the doorway, flowers in his hand. Sunflowers, Amara's favorite. His face was frozen in an expression of absolute horror. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Amara gasped. One desperate, rattling, horrible breath. Her lungs finally filled with air. She coughed, choked, gasped again. Let her go. Taehyun's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried more threat than any shout. Now. Minacio's hands fell away. She scrambled off the couch, backing away, suddenly fully aware of what she'd just done. Taehyun dropped the flowers, crossed the room in 3 strides, knelt beside Amara. Breathe, baby, breathe. I'm here. You're okay. Just breathe. Amara was sobbing, gasping, one hand on her throat, the other on her belly. The baby, Taehyun, the baby. He put his hand on her belly, felt movement. She's moving. She's okay. You're both okay. Then he turned to Minacio, and the look on his face made even Amara afraid. This wasn't the man she'd married. This wasn't the man who brought her breakfast in bed or rubbed her feet when they were swollen. This was someone else entirely. This was the Mafia Boss. Cold, dangerous, lethal. You tried to kill my wife, he said quietly. My child. Minacio was shaking, crying, backing toward the door. I didn't, Taehyun. I didn't mean. You didn't mean to strangle her? You didn't mean to murder a pregnant woman? His voice was getting quieter, which somehow made it more terrifying. What exactly didn't you mean, Minacio? I just wanted to talk to her, to make her understand. And then she said what? That you should leave? And so you tried to kill her. Amara was still gasping, tears streaming down her face. The bruises were already forming on her throat. Dark purple marks in the shape of Minacio's fingers. Taehyun pulled out his phone, made one call, spoke in rapid Korean, too fast for Amara to follow. But she caught enough words to understand. Cleanup. Problem. Tonight. Minacio heard it too. Taehyun, please. You crossed a line you can't come back from. I love you. I did this because I love you. He looked at her with something like pity. You never loved me, Minacio. You loved the idea of me, the life I represented. But love doesn't try to murder someone's pregnant wife. You never loved me like you love her. Minacio's voice was broken. In 5 years, you never looked at me the way you look at her. You never cried for me. You never... She stopped, finally seeing it clearly. It was always her, wasn't it? From the moment you met her. I was just... convenient. Taehyun didn't answer. He didn't have to. The truth was written all over his face as he held Amara. Checked her pulse. Looked at her throat with murder in his eyes. He loved Amara in a way he'd never loved Minacio. And Minacio had just tried to kill that love. 15 minutes later, men in dark suits arrived. No! Amara gasped, still struggling to breathe. Taehyun, we need to call the police. She tried to kill me, to kill our baby. He knelt beside her, held her face gently. Baby, I can't. If police come, they investigate me. Everything. They find things that put you in more danger than Minacio ever could. But, trust me, please, I'm handling this. The men escorted Minacio toward the door. She didn't resist, looked almost relieved, like she wanted to be taken away from what she'd done. But at the door she turned back, looked at Amara. "I hope you know what you have," she said quietly. "I hope you're enough for him, because women like me will always be in the shadows of men like him. And you." She looked at Amara's brown skin, her foreign face, the bruises on her throat. "You'll always be fighting to prove you belong." Amara looked right back at her. When she spoke, her voice was hoarse but clear. "I already belong. I'm his wife. I'm about to be his child's mother. You're the one who doesn't belong here anymore." The men took Minacio away, and Amara collapsed into Taehyun's arms, finally letting herself break. Taehyun took Amara to a private doctor. Someone discreet, someone who wouldn't ask questions. The examination seemed to take forever. Ultrasound, fetal heart rate, checking for distress, examining Amara's throat, her breathing, her blood pressure. Finally, the doctor smiled. "The baby is fine. Strong heartbeat, moving normally. Your wife is very lucky." Amara started crying again, relief this time. "But," the doctor continued, "I want to monitor you both closely over the next few days. The stress, the trauma, the physical assault, these things can sometimes trigger early labor. You're 30 weeks. If the baby comes now, she'd likely be okay, but we want to keep her in there as long as possible." Amara nodded, one hand on her belly. After the doctor left, Taehyun sat in the chair next to the examination table, put his head in his hands. "This is my fault," he said quietly. "Yes," Amara agreed. Her voice was still hoarse. "It is." He looked up, surprised by her directness. "You brought her back into our lives," Amara continued. "You kept seeing her, kept giving her hope, kept lying to me, and today I almost died because of it. Our baby almost died because of it. I know. Do you?" She sat up slowly, wincing. "Do you really know what you did? I gave up everything for you, Taehyun. Everything. And you repaid me by sneaking around with your ex-girlfriend, telling her you wished she was having your baby, making me feel like I was never enough. You are enough. You're more than enough. Then why wasn't I? Why did you need her too?" He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw with emotion. "Because being with you meant confronting who I'm supposed to be instead of who I am. With Minacio, I was a gangster's son who grew up to run the organization. With you, I'm supposed to be better, normal, clean, and I couldn't handle the pressure of trying to be someone I'm not. So you kept one foot in each world. Yes, and almost lost us both. Yes." He reached for her hand. She let him take it, but didn't squeeze back.
"I'm sorry, Amare."
"I'm so fucking sorry. I should have let Minacio go completely. I should have been honest with you about who I am and what my life involves. I should have protected you better. Do you still love her?" The question hung in the air. "Part of me will always care about who we were," he said finally. "She was my first love. She knew me in a different time, but I don't love her the way I love you. What I felt for Minacio was comfortable, easy. What I feel for you terrifies me because it's real. It demands I be better. And I almost destroyed it because I was too much of a coward to fully commit." Amara was crying again. "How do I trust you now? How do I stay with a man who let another woman into our lives? Who let her get close enough to try to kill me? I don't know," he admitted. "I don't know how to fix this, but I'm asking you to let me try. And your world, your business, the darkness you've been hiding from me, I'll tell you everything. No more secrets. And I'm getting out, as much as I can. Going legitimate. It won't be overnight, but I'm done living in the shadows. What happened to Minacio? Where did those men take her?" Taehyun was quiet.
"Taehyun."
Where is she? On a plane to Los Angeles. My men will set her up with money, an apartment, a job. But she can never come back to Korea. If she does, if she speaks about this, if she tries to contact any of you, he didn't finish. Didn't have to. Amara should have been horrified. Should have been scared of this man who could make people disappear with a phone call. But all she felt was tired. I need time, she said finally. To think. To figure out if I can do this. If I can raise our daughter in your world. Take all the time you need. But please don't leave. Not yet. Stay in Korea. Let me prove I can be the man you need. She didn't answer. Just lay back on the examination table, hand on her belly, feeling her daughter kick, and wondered how her life had become something out of a movie. Amara went into labor at 35 weeks. Early but not dangerously so. The doctor said the trauma from the attack likely triggered it. 22 hours of labor. Taehyun never left her side, held her hand, wiped her forehead, coached her breathing, cried when she cried. At 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, ironically, their daughter was born. 5 pounds, 8 ounces. Dark hair, lots of it. Brown skin like her mama. Her father's eyes and nose. Perfect. Naomi Jean Washington Kong, Amara whispered, holding her for the first time. Naomi Jean, Taehyun repeated, touching his daughter's tiny hand. She grabbed his finger immediately. She's perfect. She's a bridge, Amara said, between two worlds, two cultures, two families. She's ours. Over the next 2 months, things slowly changed. Taehyun kept his word, started extracting himself from the dangerous parts of the business. It was slow, you don't just walk away from organized crime, but he was trying. He also brought in security, a detail specifically for Amara and Naomi, 2 bodyguards who spoke English and Korean, women because Amara insisted. If someone's going to be around my daughter 24/7, I want people who understand what it means to protect a black woman and her baby. Taehyun's mother visited the hospital 3 days after Naomi was born. The meeting was tense, awkward. She'd never warmed to Amara, and Amara had never tried to force it. But when she held Naomi for the first time, something shifted in her face. She has the Kong nose, she said in Korean.
Taehyun translated.
She has the Washington stubbornness, Amara replied. His mother almost smiled. Almost. It wasn't acceptance. Not yet. But it was a start. Amara also started building her own community. Found an international mothers group, expats from all over the world raising kids in Seoul. Started a blog about being a black mother in Korea. Found her voice again. Therapy helped too. She found a black therapist in the States who did video sessions. Someone who understood not just the trauma of the attack, but the isolation of being black in a non-black country, of being married into a culture that didn't always accept you. What you survived isn't just physical, her therapist said. It's emotional, cultural, racial. You're processing multiple traumas at once. Some days I don't know if I made the right choice, Amara admitted. Staying here, staying with him. Do you love him? Yes. God help me. But yes. Does he love you? The real you, not some fantasy? Amara thought about the way Taehyun looked at her while she was in labor. The way he held Naomi like she was made of glass. The way he'd rearranged his entire life to prove he was serious about change. Yes, he loves me. Finally. Completely. But it took me almost dying for him to realize it. And that's something you have to decide if you can live with. Amara didn't have an answer yet, but she was trying. Meanwhile, across the world in Los Angeles, Minacio was trying too. Trying to build a new life. She had a job at an art gallery. A small apartment in Silver Lake. A therapist she saw twice a week. She hadn't contacted Taehyun once. Hadn't tried to come back to Korea. She knew what that would mean. Some nights, she'd lie awake and think about what she'd done. How close she'd come to becoming a murderer. How rage and jealousy had turned her into someone she didn't recognize. She'd lost everything. But at least she was alive. At least she had a chance to become someone better. That's what her therapist kept telling her. Minaseo wasn't sure she believed it yet, but she was trying. 6 months after Naomi's birth, Amara stood on the balcony of their penthouse, holding her daughter, watching Seoul at sunset. The city was beautiful from up here, peaceful. You couldn't see the struggles, the isolation, the stairs, just lights and buildings and life. Naomi made a small sound, not quite a cry, not quite a coo, just baby noises. I know, sweet girl, Amara whispered. It's a lot, isn't it? This world we brought you into. Taehyun came out onto the balcony, wrapped his arms around both of them. She's growing so fast, he said. She's going to be tall, like her daddy. They stood there in comfortable silence for a moment. Do you regret it? Taehyun asked quietly. Choosing me? Staying here? Amara took a long time to answer, because it deserved a real answer, not a comforting lie. I regret that loving you almost killed me, she said finally. I regret that our daughter will have to navigate being biracial her whole life. Being American in Korea, Korean in America. Never quite fitting anywhere. She paused. I regret that I had to almost die for you to finally let go of Minaseo. I regret that your family only started respecting me after they saw how hard you fought to keep me. Taehyun didn't interrupt, just listened. But, Amara continued, turning to look at him, I don't regret her. I don't regret this. I don't regret choosing to fight for us. Even on the hard days, and there are a lot of hard days, I don't regret being her mama or being your wife. She shifted Naomi to her other arm. I'm choosing to be brave, not because everything is perfect, but because I refuse to let what Minaseo did destroy us. I refuse to let my fear win. Taehyun had tears in his eyes. I don't deserve you. No, you don't. But you're trying to become someone who does. And I'm choosing to believe that's possible. She took a breath. But Taehyun, this is it. This is your only chance. One more betrayal. One more lie. One more secret. One more time I feel unsafe in our home. And Naomi and I are on the first flight to Atlanta. And you'll never see us again. I know. I mean it. I know. And I won't lose you twice. I promise. Naomi started fussing. Hungry, probably. I'll feed her, Amara said. You want to make dinner? I'll order in. What do you want?
Surprise-me.
He kissed her forehead, kissed Naomi's head, went inside. Amara stayed on the balcony for another moment, looking out at Seoul. She'd come so far, given up so much, survived so much. She thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, confident, ambitious, in control. She'd lost that woman somewhere along the way, but she was finding her again, slowly, piece by piece. This new version of herself was different, stronger in some ways, more cautious in others, more aware of her own worth. She knew monsters existed now, knew that love wasn't always safe, knew that sometimes the people who love you can also hurt you the most. But she also knew she was brave enough to keep going. For herself, for Naomi, for the life she was fighting for. Not the life she'd imagined when she'd said yes to Taehyun in that Atlanta hotel room, but the life she'd survived. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Epilogue. 72:00-75:00. 1 year later, Amara Washington Kong stood in the kitchen of their penthouse, making breakfast. American breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, the kind of soul food breakfast her mama used to make on Sundays. Naomi was in her high chair, babbling and throwing Cheerios. She'd started walking last month, and now everything was an adventure. Everything was something to explore, to touch, to put in her mouth. She had Amara's smile and Taehyun's determination. Already stubborn, already fearless. Taehyun came in from his morning run, kissed Naomi's head, kissed Amara's cheek. Smells amazing. My mama's recipe. Figured Naomi should know where she comes from. Both sides. He smiled. Your mom's visiting next month, right? Yeah, for 2 weeks. Fair warning. She's probably going to spend the entire time judging your life choices. I deserve it. Yes, you do. They'd fallen into this rhythm, this new normal. It wasn't perfect. They still fought, still had hard conversations, still had moments where the cultural differences felt like too much. But they were trying. Taehyun had gone almost completely legitimate. Still had connections, still had power, but the dangerous stuff was behind him. He could walk down the street without looking over his shoulder now. Amara had published a book, a memoir about being a black woman navigating love, marriage, and motherhood in Korea. It was doing well, getting attention, giving her a voice again. And Naomi? Naomi was thriving, bilingual already, babbling in English and Korean, comfortable in both worlds, confident in her own skin. The doorbell rang. Taehyun went to answer it, came back with a package. What's this? Amara asked. I don't know. It's addressed to you. Amara opened it carefully. Inside was a children's book, Korean folktales in English and Korean. And a note. I saw this and thought of Naomi. I hope she grows up knowing both sides of her heritage. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're happy. Amara stared at the note for a long time. Minesio? Taehyun asked quietly. Yeah. Do you want me to? No. It's fine. She's moving on. We're moving on. That's how it should be. She set the book aside, turned back to breakfast. Because this kitchen, this baby, this man who'd finally chosen her completely, this was her life now. Not the life she'd planned, not the life she'd imagined, but the life she'd fought for, the life she'd survived for. And it was enough. Sometimes love costs you everything. Your home, your identity, your safety, almost your life. And you have to decide. Is it worth it? Is rebuilding worth the pain? Is staying worth the risk? Is fighting worth the scars? Amara Washington Kong chose yes. Not because it was easy. Not because it was safe. Not because it was what everyone expected. But because she decided that her story wasn't going to end with almost. Almost died. Almost left. Almost gave up. She chose brave instead. And sometimes brave is all you need. If the story moved you, if it made you think about love and sacrifice and survival, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because stories like Amara's matter. And every share, every like, every comment tells me that truth is worth telling, even when it's hard. Thank you for listening.